Good morning, everyone. My name is Carolyn Hart Bennett. Today I'm going to read chapter 37 from the third leg of the Seven Sisters 5,000-mile journey from London to Salt Lake City. And the name of it is Seven Sisters, The Trek, chapter 37. After a few more days' travel, the Saints were jubilant to finally spot Independence Rock in the distance. It was thus called because immigrants who left the Missouri River in the early spring wanted to get to this rock before the 4th of July or Independence Day. That way they could likely beat the first Rocky Mountain snows. The granite rock was about 1,900 feet long. Let me do that again. The granite rock was about 1,900 feet long, 800 feet wide, and 130 feet tall, and stood alone on the prairie. Being quite flat on the top, it was much easier to climb than Chimney Rock. There were thousands of names carved or written on it, as high up as the scribes could reach. It was fun to read the names of those who had passed that way. Some of them were names of famous mountain men or explorers. There were even a few names of the leaders of the church. It was a welcome stop for the Saints, and even though it was now long past the 4th of July, they planned to celebrate their arrival there as if it were Independence Day. From the top of the rock, the travelers could see another rock formation to the west called Devil's Gate. This was a huge, rugged V-cut in the 300-foot-high wall of stone by the Sweetwater River. Pioneers and miners going to Oregon, California, or Utah all stopped in this area to enjoy these two unique landmarks. The Dixie Saints were excited to get their suppers over with so they could go and explore. But at 7 o'clock, they were to be at the top of the rock for their prayer meeting. George led an especially fitting opening song. High on a mountain top, a banner is unfurled. Ye nations all look up, it waves to all the world. In deserts, sweet peaceful land, on Zion's mount, behold it stand. After a few reminders, the main business of the meeting was to have Brother Athey bless his new daughter and give her the name of Alice Dixie Athey after her grandmother and the Dixie train. The Saints were in a grand mood, and it made things even better. And to make things even better, Captain MacArthur requested that they invite all who weren't Mormons who were walking around on top of the rock to join them in a celebratory dance. It was a splendid way to lift everyone's spirits and culminate their day of dreary walking. The young unmarried girls of the company loved when they got a chance to dance with the Utah boys. Most of them had turned up their noses at the returning missionaries after the Utah boys showed up on the scene. They enjoyed interacting with them ever since they first came over the hilltop in Omaha to pick them up. They were very attracted to the teamsters' rough, unpolished ways and liked how they looked in their frontier clothing. The girls were used to staid English manners and couldn't believe how free these boys were with their frank talk and uninhibited behavior. They took on the hard task of the company and got them done in a timely manner, and they couldn't often be They took on the hard task of the company and got them done in a timely and thorough manner. This couldn't often be done with a lot of gentility and manners. Socializing with Utah boys gave the young sisters a purpose in life. They felt boredom leave whenever they were talking to them. The teamsters were likewise thrilled with all the attention they were getting from the young eligible girls. Some couples who had paired off were seen canoodling as they took long walks in the evenings. This behavior worried the leaders. They could see it might present problems if it got out of hand. So they started mentioning in prayer meetings that the parents needed to talk to their daughters about spending too much time distracting the teamsters, and that the teamsters should keep arm's length away from the girls until they got to Zion and could get more serious about pursuing these young, naive girls. Now wasn't the time or the place to pitch and fling a little woo, as they put it, or tempt themselves beyond their capabilities to resist. The girls and boys always squirmed when the subject of the meeting turned to them. They would just have to be a little more discreet about being seen with each other. To counter this problem, Captain MacArthur requested that Hurricane introduce a dance to the company on the top of Independence Rock that evening. It was appropriate for fun and didn't have much physical contact between the boys and the girls. A large circle was formed with couples all facing the same direction. The girls were on the left of their partners. On the inside of the circle, both had their hands crisscrossed in front. Hurricane got in the middle. Tonight I'm going to teach you a song as you all skip around clockwise. It goes like this. Lost my partner, what'll I do? Lost my partner, what'll I do? Lost my partner, what'll I do? Skip to Maloo, my darling. Hurricane had a beautiful voice, and coupled with his brilliant smile, it sent the girls' hearts aflutter. The dancers caught on quickly. He went on to explain. Then I'm going to choose or steal a girl from one of the boys while you all sing, I'll get another one, pretty one too. I'll get another one, pretty one too. I'll get another one, pretty one too. Skip to Maloo, my darling. After I choose one, that girl's partner will go into the center. Everyone else will continue to skip around the circle and sing the chorus while the new boys had a chance to size up the other girls. Skip, skip, skip to Maloo, skip, skip, skip to Maloo, skip, skip, skip to Maloo, skip to Maloo, my darling. By now, the band had picked up the melody and was playing along to the bouncy tune. Hurricane added, there are many verses, so listen to me and the Utah boys sing the first line of each one. Then you can join in on the rest. The lines say, flies in the buttermilk, shoo, fly, shoo. Gone again, what'll I do? I'll get a partner better than you. I'll get another one, skip, skip, skip. Cat's in the cream jar, ooh, ooh, ooh. Off to Utah, 2 by 2. Do you get it? We get it, the young people responded joyfully. Let's try it then, he said, taking his spot in the middle. As he sized up the smiling girls who skipped past him, he knew who he wanted to choose, Caroline. She was very flattered to be chosen first, and she happily accepted Hurricane as her new partner. Around and around they went. By the time the other boys were through choosing, skipping, and singing all the verses and choruses, everyone was pretty well tuckered out and ready for bed. It was a fitting ending to their Independence Rock celebration. Captain MacArthur approved of this new dance and ordered it played at every dance from then on. In a few days, when the twins begged to run ahead, Susanna decided to go with them and their friends to see what the fascination of running ahead was all about. Quite a few of the saints had discovered this practice and had gone to watch over their children, or to write in their diaries, or to just sit for a spell until their wagon caught up to them. Susanna planned to catch up on her journal writing. We have slowly been ascending the Continental Divide this last week. Captain MacArthur announced that the train will be camping at Pacific Springs in just 2 more days. He said it is a wonderfully refreshing place on the west side of the divide. He explained it is called Pacific Springs because its waters flow west toward the Pacific Ocean, whereas all the rivers and streams we have encountered on our trek thus far have flowed in an easterly direction toward the Mississippi River. I can't wait to taste the wonderful spring water. It will also be nice to travel downhill for a while after reaching this landmark. The only problem will be that after we leave Pacific Springs, we are told the wagon train will enter a dry stretch of the trail where the next good water can't be found until we get to Little Sandy Stream, nearly 40 miles away. We will probably need to ration the water in our barrels until we get there. But as Captain MacArthur says, others have made it, and you can too. Susanna finished her entry by saying, this has been a splendid activity. I rested for a few minutes, got my journal caught up, and kept an eye on the twins, all at the same time. The saints were more than ready to arrive at Pacific Springs, because it didn't take 2 more days like Captain Max said it would, but it took 3 more days, and their anticipation had made that extra day of trekking uphill extra difficult. The children were ecstatic when they ran to the bubbling springs, dipped their cupped hands into the ice-cold water, and gulped it deeply. They couldn't seem to get enough. The men busied themselves making the camp circle with their wagons and unyoking the oxen while the women set up the tents and got the campfires going. Several of the captains and a few of the greenhorns, including Sir Evelyn, were assigned to herd the cattle downstream a few hundred yards so they wouldn't contaminate the pure water in the creek where the saints were camping. They drove the cattle almost a mile, so what they thought was an ideal spot to graze, and water the herd. There they noticed some wigwams and people near the trees. This worried them a little until they heard a loud voice yell, "Welcome, pioneers! We're happy to see you. Come on over and see if we have anything you want to buy or trade. We have the best furs in the West." The brethren looked to Captain Andrews for direction. "Thank you, friends. We'll come and take a look after we get our cattle settled down." "This is exciting," exclaimed Sir Evelyn. "I've read stories about mountain men, their squaws and half-breeds, and here they are right in front of us." Then something dawned on him, and he declared, "Cor blimey, the men are wearing buckskin suits just like I have on." He moved on with the others, but kept looking back to study these intriguing men. They all had long beards and long hair, with some kind of grungy fur hat on their heads. Their suits didn't have as much beadwork on as his did, but they had a lot more fringe, all on practically every seam of their well-worn shirts and pants. After Captain Andrews felt the cattle were secure for the night, he assigned 4 of the 8 herders to stay with the cattle. Then he took Sir Evelyn, George, and Curly Clayson back with him to fulfill his promise of taking a look at the mountain men's cache of goods and supplies. Besides that, he wanted to visit them and ask a few questions about the trail ahead. When they got there, the mountain men greeted them warmly and shook their hands. They introduced themselves as an uncle and 2 grown nephews from the Parker family fur trading company. Uncle Seth did most of the talking and pointed out which squaw went with which Parker man and numbered their children proudly. The men had ruddy brown faces from living out of doors all the time. Their well-worn buckskin suits were all stained with grease and dirt and smelled particularly gamey. They had several accessories such as powder horns, shot pouches, a possibles bag, and several knives in sheaths around their waist. "We haven't had a Mormon train come through here for a couple of weeks," said Uncle Seth, "and we surely want to invite you all to come in and look at our furs and other supplies so you can go back and tell your captains about us. We have a small trading post here and would appreciate any business you could throw our way." "We'd love to take a look at what you have," said Sir Evelyn, before Captain Andrews had a chance to reply. "You took the words right out of my mouth, Sir Evelyn," Andrews said, a little perturbed at being cut off. The men went into the largest wigwam, where many goods were displayed. The mountain men showed them hatchets, canteens, cooking utensils, supplies of tobacco, coffee, and salt. Then they offered them a sample of some pemmican. "What's in this jerky?" asked Curly. "It's mighty tasty." "Our squaws make it," said one nephew. "They only use the leanest and thinnest dried meat from deer, moose, caribou, or beef." Then, as an aside, he chuckled, "It ain't no good if they make it with pork or bear." The men nodded their agreement. He kept going. "They crumple the meat up and mix it with dried currants and some rendered fat. Then they sweeten it with honey. After they mix all these together, they dry it again." "Surely is good," said George, munching on his piece as he continued to walk around and look at things. On one side of the wigwam, there were stacks of dried beaver pelts, folded and pressed into packs of 60 pelts each. There were bear rugs and wolf rugs with the heads still attached, and there were 2 short tables with legs made out of elk horns. "If you have any flour to spare," said the uncle, "we will trade you a buffalo robe for 100 pounds of it, or if you just want to pay for the robes, the different price is between $4 and $8. Captain Andrews was apologetic. "I'm very sorry to tell you this, but we don't have any extra flour to trade right now. We're running a little short ourselves." "No matter," said Uncle Seth, reassured. "We have lots of other things. There are moccasins of every size and style," he said, pointing to the rows on the floor of the tent. "Our squaws make them along with the buckskin jackets, shirts, and leather breeches that are on display." Then he turned to Sir Evelyn. "You, sir, are dressed exactly like a mountain man, except you don't have any moccasins. Let me fit you with a pair of our finest. Then you will look truly authentic." "I'd like that," said Sir Evelyn, sitting on the floor to try some on. The other 3 continued browsing around the tent with the nephews. The first pair of ankle-high moccasins fit Sir Evelyn perfectly. He really liked the look of the colorful beaded design on them. "They are very comfortable. How much do they cost?" $3. Sir Evelyn lowered his voice. "Throw in some coffee, and I'll give you $5. "It's a deal," the uncle smiled, knowing Sir Evelyn wanted his transaction kept secret from the other Mormons with him. Sir Evelyn turned his back on the uncle for a moment and reached under his shirt to get his money. The other 3 herders weren't paying much attention to him. They were admiring a spread-out, tanned buffalo hide that was fastened to the wall of the wigwam. On it were drawn several men on horses and several buffalo. It obviously represented a buffalo hunt. "You've got some really unique things here," said George. "Let's sit down on these buffalo robes and talk," said one of the nephews. "We want to know all about your Mormon company." "Thank you, but we need to get back to our camp so we can help get things ready for the night," said Captain Andrews. "We have some long-stem pipes. You'd surely got time to smoke some tobacco with us." "That would be immensely pleasurable," said Sir Evelyn. "I don't mind if we do." Captain Andrews caught Sir Evelyn's eyes and spoke sternly. "No, really, we need to get back. The sooner we do, the sooner we can report to the others about your trading post." This pacified the Parkers for the time being. Then Uncle Seth remembered something. "The mountain men in this area are having a rendezvous at Cache Cave in a few weeks, about the same time your train will be traveling through the canyon there. You might want to come and join us in some of our festivities. We have a grand old time up there once a year, showing off our furs and goods, competing in mountain man contests, shooting our muzzle loaders, drinking whiskey, and telling a bunch of tall tales, which I guarantee you'll never forget." Sir Evelyn was summoning up all kinds of fascinating images of the rendezvous as Uncle Seth spoke. "Thanks for the kind invitation," said Captain Andrews. "We'll have to see how things work out for us." Sir Evelyn wasn't very happy with this answer, but at least the captain didn't say no, so maybe there was a chance he was considering it. With that said, the 4 herders left the tent and rode back to camp. Sir Evelyn was elated with his new moccasins and that he had secretly procured a sack of coffee. He would have to substitute it for his beloved tea, which seemed to be in short supply with the Mormons, and everywhere else in America for that matter. He found himself consumed for the next few days, daydreaming about the possibility of attending a real mountain man rendezvous. That's the end of chapter 37. Over and out.